Amazing transformation, the girl's heartfelt plea, revealed an incredible truth about her father. Lily Davis stood at the back of the gymnasium, heart racing, palms slick against the fabric of her faded sweater. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, illuminating the assembly with a harsh glare that reflected how exposed she felt. Her father's reputation loomed large in Maplewood. Everyone knew him as the small-town mechanic who worked tirelessly to lift others. Yet here she was, the shadow of the great man, stuck under the weight of worn-out jeans, while her peers boasted designer everything. They always reminded her of what her family lacked. An internal storm brewed, pride and embarrassment tangled together until it felt suffocating. "Why does it hurt to be proud of him?" she whispered under her breath. The hypocrisy was maddening. Classmates with their shiny gadgets, families who couldn't comprehend what it felt like to scrape by. As winter settled in, Lily watched her father, once vibrant and hearty, now appear as if the cold had seeped into his bones. How long before his energy faded completely? The thought gnawed at her. What if she lost him? Days rolled into nights filled with worries, her father working late into the evening to fix neighbors' cars, every clang of metal echoing her fears. Then, in a moment of desperation before the annual school assembly, the idea hit her like a bolt. She would share her father's story, the sacrifices, the love, the unwavering dedication. Tears welled in her eyes as she recalled his sleepless nights, the way he'd fix a car just to put food on the table. If only they could see him as a father, and not just a mechanic. But just as she stood knee-deep in her resolve, an old forgotten letter slid from an unassuming stack in her father's workshop. The delicate pages whispered secrets of a time long gone, revealing his dreams of innovative automotive designs, visions stifled by the relentless grind of survival. Flooded with excitement, she felt a jolt of hope pulse through her, momentarily drowning out the bitter reality. Could she revive that spark? But just like that, waves of doubt crashed. How could she, a girl with nothing more than a hankering heart, make something of her father's unrealized potential? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Determined to transform her father's legacy, she dove headfirst into engineering, drawing from community resources, seeking mentors however she could. But each step felt like trudging through mud. The whispers of classmates stung. "Why don't you focus on something realistic?" they said, judgment hanging in the air like a dense fog. Educators eyed her through the lens of her family's shortcomings, dismissing her ambition because of who her father was. With every mockery, her resolve thickened. She found strength in the values he had instilled: persistence, heart, loyalty. But as excitement surged, it was soon tainted with tension. What if she failed to deliver in a competition that stood as a testament to his spirit? With the event approaching, her anxiety spiraled. She was teetering on a precipice, having to display not just her designs, but the very soul of her father's dreams. Just as her moment loomed, the air thickened with anguish. Her father's health took another turn for the worse. Would she lose not just her chance to redeem his unfulfilled life, but also the man who raised her? The stakes felt insurmountable, the weight of it all crushed down like an iron fist, pushing her toward an inevitable reckoning. How could she rise above it all? Would she be able to preserve the very legacy she longed to honor, right before her world was at risk of shattering? The days turned into a blur of sleepless nights filled with frantic sketches and restless thoughts. Lily could not shake the image of her father's face. the way his smile faded when fatigue took hold, the light in his eyes dimming. She felt a fierce urgency ignite within her. The letter had not just uncovered her father's dreams. It forged a new purpose inside her. No longer was she just the girl in the background. She was becoming the vessel through which he could reclaim a piece of himself. She spent hours at the library, poring over engineering books, videos, and forums detailing car design and innovations. Each word fed her determination. Each diagram crafted a clearer vision in her mind. The voices of her peers began to fade. Unrealistic lost its sting as she replaced doubt with knowledge, collapsing any lingering uncertainty. One afternoon, Riley, a classmate known for his dismissive remarks about her aspirations, cornered her by the lockers. "Still wasting your time on that?" he barked, flashing his latest gadget, anything but a mechanic's dream. Before she could internalize his derision, something shifted within her. "I'm not wasting my time," she replied, coolly meeting his eyes. "I'm building something real, something that matters." The spark of confidence surprised her, igniting a fire that would not be quenched. As Lily poured her soul into the designs, she sought out experiences that would challenge her skill set. She enrolled in weekend workshops, experimenting with 3D modeling software that reminded her of her father's hands working tirelessly over machinery. She imagined him guiding her through each design, sharing his wisdom. When she finally sat at a computer, fingers flying over the keys, it was as if he were right there beside her. She felt closer to him than ever. Gradually, the project blossomed into something profound, a prototype that would not only honor her father's dreams, but could potentially change the way their small town thought about mechanics and innovation. The thought that lit her heart also rendered her breathless. What if her design could create a community vehicle that was both functional and sustainable? Through the creation of a prototype, she could invite Maplewood to see her father beyond the grease and grime, revealing pieces of his brilliance that had once been lost. However, with progress came pressure. Tension built within her as deadlines closed in, bringing back that treacherous swirl of anxiety. Her father's health remained precarious, his fragile state a constant reminder of how quickly things could slip from her grasp. Every update from the doctor felt like a countdown, each one a cold reminder that time was not on her side. Could she complete her project before losing him? Could she share her findings, his dreams, with him while he still had the capacity to grasp the magnitude of their shared legacy? Determined, she worked day and night, pouring every ounce of her energy into the prototype. She neglected her studies, shunned social interactions. All distractions vanished under the looming behemoth of her project. The closer she drew to her goal, the more she isolated herself, the pressure building around her like a vice. Then, one particularly dark evening, her father's condition deteriorated significantly during an unexpected flare-up. Panic crushed any remnants of stability she'd found, and in that instant, doubt clawed back inside her as desperation seeped in. She needed her father's presence, his reassurance. In the silence of their home, with her blueprints scattered like fragile dreams around her, she questioned everything she had built. Would he even care about her designs if he couldn't recognize her? At that moment, a thought pierced through her anxiety. She had to show him what he meant to her. The silence transformed into resolve. She had one last chance. She would present not just her project, but entire concept of what his legacy could be. A design that, like him, championed resilience in the face of adversity. As she raced against time to prepare her presentation, the fabric of her resolve tightened. The stakes were higher than she had anticipated. It wasn't merely about winning recognition, but about standing up, at long last, for everything her father embodied. The moment of truth drew near, and with each passing minute, her determination intensified. She stepped into the unknown, ready to face whatever lay on the other side, knowing she had to do this for him, for herself. Would she manage to deliver the most significant presentation of her life? Or would she falter when it mattered most? The answer lay just beyond the horizon, waiting to unfold. As the shadows of uncertainty loomed larger, Lily stood before the flickering lights of the conference hall, nerves coiling tightly in her chest. The polished floor reflected her anxious figure. She clutched her prototype, a model of her father's legacy, intricately designed yet still a fragile piece of hope. With each passing heartbeat, the weight of expectation bore down on her, as if the very essence of her father's dreams rested on her shoulders. Murmurs buzzed through the crowd, a cacophony of familiar voices, including Riley's, still sharp and judgmental. But this time, his barbs felt distant, overshadowed by a burgeoning belief that had taken root inside her. She had harnessed the skills she learned through her late nights and moments of self-doubt. She could feel the echoes of her father's influence, in every line of her design, in every piece of the mechanical puzzle she had assembled. The time for her presentation neared, and as she scanned the audience, her gaze landed on her father's frail figure in the front row. He looked different from the vibrant man she remembered. Thinner, his presence dimmed by illness. But there he was, determination etched into his sunken features, a reminder that she was not alone in this battle. She had to show him, and everyone, what they could achieve when passion outweighs the constraints of reality. It was finally her turn. The blinding stage lights washed over her, but within the glare, she found clarity. Heart pounding, she took a deep breath, steeling her resolve. As she activated the model, it came to life, whirring softly, lights blinking as the machinery came together in a splendid harmony of functionality and innovation. It was more than just a vehicle. It represented hope, a bridge between past aspirations and future potential. "Thank you all for being here today," she began, voice steadying as she met the eyes of her audience. "This prototype symbolizes more than a mechanical creation. It is a dream revitalized, a dream that belongs not only to one individual, but to all of us who dare to build beyond ourselves." Lily spoke about her father's legacy, sharing the challenges they faced together and how those struggles fueled her determination. With each word, she felt the energy in the room shift. This wasn't merely a project. It was a testament to love and perseverance, a call to action that echoed the kind of resilience her father exemplified. As she approached the final phase of her presentation, confidence surged within her. But would the audience see her father's influence? Would they grasp the emotional depth behind the mechanics? The stakes had transformed. This was no longer just about her accomplishment. It was a desperate plea for understanding, validation, and hope. Just as she concluded her demonstration, a sound in the audience pulled her attention, a sharp intake of breath. Her father, pale yet unwavering, stared at her with wide eyes. Was it pride? Confusion? Suddenly, Riley's voice pierced through the crowd once again, cutting through her moment of triumph. "But can you really make a difference? Can this design stand up to what's out there?" The confidence that had illuminated her moment faltered, but only for a heartbeat. In that instant, she realized this was her chance, not just to defend her prototype, but also to confront doubt in its raw form. Steeling herself, she met his gaze. "Maybe it's not about the difference I can make," she countered, "but the faith we can instill in each other. What if we all dared to build something meaningful, together?" With her heart pounding and vulnerability laid bare, a hopeful silence enveloped the hall. Would her argument resonate, or simply shatter under the weight of skepticism? As the audience lingered in anticipation, the darkness of doubt clashed violently with the light of newfound purpose. The moment of truth amplified, waiting to unfold unforeseen possibilities. Would her challenge ignite a change? Or would she stand solitary, grappling with the fear of failure? The silence stretched like a taut string, vibrating with unanswered questions and unspoken doubts. Lily felt the weight of every gaze, sharpening her resolve. Riley's skepticism hung heavy in the air, a specter that threatened to unravel the fragile belief she had woven throughout her presentation. Yet within her, a flicker of something potent ignited. A determination not only to prove her point, but to confront the intricate tapestry of her own self-doubt. "Let's not forget," she began, the adrenaline sharpening her focus. that every great innovation started as a challenge. My father faced innumerable obstacles, far greater than anyone here can imagine, yet he built something beautiful from that struggle. Her voice carried a warmth fueled by truth, and she could almost feel the audience's collective breath catch at the mention of her father's formidable journey. Riley's brow furrowed, yet he leaned forward, intrigued but still guarded. "And what gives you the right to believe yours will be different?" His voice was insistent, a brandished sword made to prod at her defenses. Lily paused, deliberating her response. In his challenge, she saw the reflection of her own internal fears, the whisperings of inadequacy that had so often plagued her. But instead of retreating into those shadows, she leaned into the moment, drawing from the wellspring of her father's legacy. "Because this design is not solely mine. It embodies what we can do together. It's grounded in compassion, an acknowledgement of shared experience. If we can remember that the essence of progress stems from unity, then maybe we can change the narrative." As her words fell into the audience, Lily sensed a shift. She could see expressions softening, minds beginning to open, particularly in her father's eyes. Those windows to a lifetime of hardship, suddenly illuminated with a hint of recognition. His belief in her, whether spoken or felt, became the anchor she needed. The audience rippled with murmurs. Some were thoughtful, while others were still skeptical. But within that chaos of sound, she noticed a flicker of possibility. A few nods, reluctant at first, but undeniably there. The initial defenses were beginning to crack, and now was the time to push further. "If we approach this challenge with collaboration, imagine what we can achieve," she said, her heart racing as she shifted from defense to advocacy. "Let's replace fear with innovation, and doubt with faith in each other. You might think it's just a prototype, but it embodies a movement, a way to reconsider who we are and who we can become." Her pulse quickened, pulsating in rhythm with an inner resolve that had previously felt distant. She was no longer just a daughter on stage, fighting against skepticism and the echoes of the past. She had become a voice of revolution, an agent of change. Feeling the pressure mount, she concluded, "If I am to partake in this journey, I cannot do it alone. A great reimagining requires each of us to step forward and breathe life into our individual contributions. But I need your support." The room held its breath, anticipation thick in the air. Among the sea of faces facing her, some bore uncertainty, while a few illuminated with intrigue. Would they accept her invitation? In this moment, she no longer felt solitary. She had extended a bridge, and now the question remained. Would they walk across it? As eyes darted around, trying to gauge reactions, the silence shattered with a hesitant clap, then another, until those hesitant beats began to resonate with a growing rhythm across the room. But just as hope began to pool steadily within her, Riley's voice returned, steady and probing. "But what happens when the world doesn't embrace your vision? What if all your efforts turn to nothing?" His words carved through her burgeoning optimism, and the taste of doubt lingered sourly in her mouth. The moment of reckoning loomed once more. Would she confront this shadow of fear head-on, or let it cling to the edges of her pursuit? This wasn't just a presentation anymore. It was a battleground of spirit, passion, and an uncertain legacy. Lily took a breath, gathering the pieces of her resolve anew to brace for what was to come, poised to turn vulnerability into strength. The fractals of doubt began to spread anew as she faced him, determination weaving through the uncertainty. The time had come to face the core of her fears. Would her innovation stand not only to catalyze change, but also to withstand resistance? Lily's thoughts raced as she processed Riley's words slicing through her conviction. The skepticism that had once felt unbearable now evolved into a challenge, the kind that could either tether her to fear or propel her forward into clarity. She stood rigid, her heart beating in the silence that followed, her gaze locked onto Riley's piercing eyes. "Riley," she replied, steadying her voice, What if the world doesn't embrace my vision? She hesitated, collecting herself. Then I'll keep pushing, refining, learning. If my father taught me anything, it's that fear can either paralyze us or ignite our purpose. His relentless questioning lit a fire within her, a desire not just to defend her concept, but to redefine her struggle. The silencing weight of doubt morphed into a clarion call for authenticity. What had she truly wanted from this presentation? Validation or transformation? The audience remained enraptured, caught between skepticism and the emergent possibility of belief. She shifted her gaze, searching for familiar faces. Her father was still there, his expression a mix of pride and concern, as though he sensed the crossroads she stood upon. Lily felt in that moment a deep kinship with her father's trials. She could almost hear his steady voice guiding her, a nurturing pulse of resilience telling her to forge onward. Innovation, she declared with renewed energy, is a dialogue, not a destination. If we approach it as a conversation, built on feedback, on criticism and support, we enhance its potential. And if it fails, that failure is not a wasted effort. It's data. It's where growth begins. She watched as a few more heads nodded, hesitant yet intrigued. Change is always met with resistance, she continued, sensing the shift in the room. We can expect pushback, but we can also anticipate progress, and that is worth fighting for. It's about each of us revealing our vulnerabilities, turning them into strengths, forging a path from our collective experiences. Lily leaned slightly forward, extending her hand, as if reaching through the chasm of doubt. Let's start fresh. Let's allow ourselves to mold this idea together. Let me show you the work I've done, the design placed on the foundation of compassion and understanding, driven by the feedback of all of you. I am here to listen, just as much as I am here to propose. With each word, she felt herself unshackling the chains of her past failures. Each disclosure of her own uncertainty transformed into moments of connection. The honest approach settled like a balm over the tension, framing the narrative differently in her mind. She was not standing in front of an audience of critics, but alongside potential collaborators. Yet a sliver of fear remained, whispering that Riley was right. There was no guarantee of success. What if they rejected her idea completely? The possibility lingered heavily in her stomach, threatening to disrupt the newfound momentum. But perhaps true innovation required embracing that uncertainty, a willingness to engage with what could be deemed impossible. A quiet resolve settled in her chest. This might be her moment to step onto a larger stage, beyond seeking reassurance or approval. It was about the work, the integrity of her vision, born from history, nurtured in uncertainty. Riley, she pressed as her voice steadied. If I strive toward something meaningful, how can I be anything but proud, even if it falters? The bravery lies in the attempt, in the commitment to transform what seems hopeless. The atmosphere in the room vibrated with a palpable energy, the undercurrent of apprehension mingling with curiosity. Faces that had been skeptical were now leaning in, edging toward connection. But just as she felt the tides shifting, another voice broke through, a penetrating reminder of the barriers ahead. And what if the integration of this vision divides us further? What if we can't find that unity? It was a new voice, unrecognizable yet familiar, and it struck a dissonant chord in the harmony she'd begun to craft. Caught in the moment, Lily felt the challenge reverberate deep within. Would she allow this new doubt to extinguish the flame of momentum she had sparked? Or would she embrace it, using this opposition to fuel her resolve even more? She took a step back, inhaling deeply. The time for mere words had met its precipice. The moment had arrived to confront her fiercest cynic, herself. Lily clenched her fists at her sides, feeling the taut pulsing of uncertainty transform into a steady thrum of purpose. The voice demanding unity echoed within her, a reminder of the complexities of human connection and the potential fracture lines along which she needed to tread carefully. Riley's challenge, just another reflection of the apprehension that had always nested in her mind, surprised her with its persistence. With measured breath, she centered herself. What is unity, really? She mused internally, drawing upon her father's lessons of being an innovator. Is it a blanket of consensus, or is it the summation of diverse voices striving toward a shared goal? She realized that this confrontation marked a turning point, not just for her vision but for her understanding of collaboration. Greatness rarely stems from simplicity, she declared, her voice soaring beyond the tremors of doubt. It's born from disagreement, from clash, from the validation of different experiences. I urge you to challenge my vision. Dissent should not be an obstacle. Instead, it is the pathway to refinement. Her eyes flickered across the audience, desperate to pull them back into the exchange. She now realized was not merely an opportunity for endorsement, but a collaborative engagement. To her surprise, a few faces lightened with understanding, as if her words carved new avenues for their own questions. As she dove deeper, Lily began to peel back the layers of her vision. Not just the polished surface, but the messy undercurrent, the passion-driven messiness that had catalyzed her journey. Let's build this together. Share your critique and insights. Let's unwrap our fears and festoon them with the wisdom we borrow from each other. Engagement rippled through the room, igniting a discussion rather than a monologue. Questions arose, challenging assumptions she had held tightly. Some spoke of logistical issues, and others framed ethical concerns. Each voice prodded her deeper into the folds of her vision. As the inquiries grew more elaborate, so did her resolve. Rather than feeling pinned down, she felt invigorated, illuminated by the dialogue, which now seemed to reflect a collective aspiration rather than diverging hopes. The room was electric with unpredictability, and for the first time, she leaned fully into the cacophony, trusting in the process to reveal something greater. But in this whirlwind of insight, a familiar fear resurfaced, the looming threat of failure. It lurked at the edges of her psyche, a dark specter whispering tales of rejection and ridicule. Had her father experienced this? The enormity of her father's dreams now felt heavier, contrasting sharply with the lightness of her determined attitude. Overwhelmed, she fought to shake the thought, but it clung tightly, refusing to dissolve. Yet, as she regained her composure, she recalled her father's spirit of perseverance. Her commitment to authenticity called upon the very tenets he had woven into the fabric of their lives. A mindset that embraced the possibility of falling flat, but demanded rising back stronger. The tension settled into a focused clarity, and she capitalized on that moment. What if we redefine success then? Maybe it isn't about flawless execution or unanimous applause. Perhaps it dwells in the ambition to catalyze meaningful change together, learning through each trial and triumph. The audience shifted again. Eyebrows raised, murmurs began, sketches of hesitance yielding slowly to the prospect of engagement. She felt it, a flicker of illumination igniting within her chest. It was as if she was granting them a key to unlock the conversation that had eluded her for so long. But amidst the newfound synergy, anxiety morphed into a peculiar energy, zinging through her veins. The lingering question began to loom larger than any doubt. What if she was not prepared for the enormity of their collective vision? What if, despite this moment of unity, she was about to stumble into something far greater than she imagined? The air thickened with anticipation, and as she glanced around, exhilaration and fear coalesced. A potent wave of vulnerability swept through her. Her next words would forge the path ahead, but were they words of certainty, or were they steered more deeply into the unknown? This pivotal exchange had become not just about her ideas, but the transformation of perception. Hers and theirs. Yet, the precipice called to her still, whispering, "Can you truly guide this ship?" In that spiraling moment, Lily knew she was on the brink of confronting not just their skepticism, but the tremors of her own capability. She lifted her gaze steadily, the fire of determination igniting anew within her. "Let me ask you this," she spoke, her voice holding steady. What does it take to nurture our most daring dreams into reality? The thrill of possibility surged as she awaited the room's answer, fully aware that the real journey had only just begun. The room pulsated with intrigue, eyes fixated on Lily, as if waiting for her to unveil a hidden truth. She felt the weight of their expectations pressing down on her. The question hung there, a living thing, demanding careful exploration. Moments passed, seconds stretching into what felt like an eternity, her heart racing in sync with the rhythm of the gaze surrounding her. Someone finally broke the silence, a tentative voice cutting through the tension. "Courage," a woman called from the back of the room. "It takes courage to pursue dreams, especially when the stakes are high." Lily absorbed the word as if it were a lifeline. Courage resonated deep within her. She thought of her father, a man who faced countless adversities with unwavering resolve. Did she embody that same courage he carried? Would she? She sprang forward, determined to build off the spark ignited by that single word. Exactly. Courage coupled with tenacity. It's about standing firm in the face of adversity, despite fear whispering at your heels. The energy shifted again, and one by one, people began to share their thoughts. Experiences of failures, moments of doubt, and the relentless push of ambition. They were no longer just voices in the crowd. With each revelation, their individual stories began to weave an intricate tapestry, resonating with collective struggles and triumphs. Every contribution unveiled layers not just of ideas, but of vulnerability and strength. In her commitment to maintaining the conversation, Lily realized she stood at the crossroads of her development. No longer solely an architect of her vision, she had transformed into a facilitator, guiding others through their reflections. This role felt unnervingly comfortable, yet filled her with doubt. Was this where she truly belonged? As participants continued to open up, Lily felt their collective hesitance lay before her like a shadow, ready to swallow her belief in the undertaking. Yet, light emerged through shared experiences, illuminating the fact that failure was simply a part of the journey, not its end point. We have to be willing to embrace the fall, to find strength in our missteps, she asserted. Hearing you say that encourages me to confront my own fears about inadequacy, a voice chimed in. The idea hung in the air. Inadequacy, another specter that haunted her. Did her willingness to face this collective vulnerability expose her own? The irony wasn't lost on her, the leader grappling with the very emotions she encouraged others to confront. How could she guide them if she faltered at the edge of uncertainty? Caught in this whirlwind of exchange, she realized that self-discovery was intertwined with transformation. Her personal evolution hinged on this shared engagement. Maybe leadership isn't about providing all the answers, she pondered aloud. Perhaps it's about cultivating the courage to ask the right questions and create a space for honest dialogue. As the discussion pressed on, she found herself leaning into the challenges posed. Rather than retreating, she felt an invigorating pulse, an understanding blossoming that conflict and growth were partners in the journey ahead. Each person in that room became a potential collaborator in her endeavor, and the journey of self and shared growth began to coalesce, shaping a holistic vision that felt less like a burden and more like a shared quest. But amidst this thunderous epiphany, a chilling realization clawed at her thoughts. This path would require more than she had prepared for. Would she truly be able to weave every voice into a cohesive vision? A deeper anxiety swelled within her. The room's engagement was a beacon of promise, yet she remained haunted by the question of her ability to harness this energy effectively. As the dialogue continued to flow, she grasped for solid ground. So if we are all capable of nurturing our dreams, what happens when the collaborative force becomes too overwhelming or conflicting? How do we manage that? Lily's eyes searched the audience, sensing the culmination of past fears, a new tension entwining hope and doubt. She waded through the possibilities, feeling an eagerness grip her yet also a foreboding uncertainty. Could she truly shape this discourse into a unified realignment of dreams? The air crackled with anticipation as the responses began to turn. Each notion gathered weight, morphing possibilities into considerations. But within Lily, a storm brewed. Within this transformative moment, clashed an unknown tumult of conflict and resolution. What lay ahead was uncharted territory, both thrilling and terrifying. Could she navigate the labyrinth of these ideas emerging from the depths of not only others, but herself? This was more than a vision or a collaboration. It was a profound challenge to the core of her capabilities. As the room filled with uncertainty tinged with possibility, she realized the true question was no longer just about their dreams, but how she would confront her own evolution in the face of shared aspirations. With her heart pounding, she braced herself for unfolding revelations, fearing yet embracing the sheer magnitude of the experience that lay before her. Lily took a breath, letting the electric atmosphere pulse through her. The insights woven into the air felt weighted, almost palpable. As she scanned the room, a rising tide of anxiety washed over her. Would they turn to her expectantly in silence if she stumbled now? Pressure built within her, suffocating yet exhilarating. Her gaze landed on a man sitting close to the front, his brow furrowed in contemplation. What if our dreams clash? Are we prepared for that? He posed the question tentatively, yet it echoed through her mind like a bell tolling in the distance. They had spoken of courage, of tenacity, but how would they handle disappointment, betrayal, or discord? Conflict isn't an enemy, it's a catalyst, she asserted, her voice steadying with conviction. Navigating through disagreements can forge a stronger bond among us, but still, there's a delicate balance. As she spoke, fragments of her earlier self-doubt dissolved, replaced by a burgeoning clarity. This wasn't about silencing dissent. It was about creating a framework where disparate ideas could coexist, allowing for friction to spark creativity rather than extinguish it. The scent of coffee mingled with the nervous energy in the room, acting as a visceral reminder of her grounding reality. She needed to embrace discomfort as part of their process, a stepping stone, not a stumbling block. As she encouraged this perspective, she felt the weight of her own unrecognized fears shift. She had become the very leader she questioned herself to be. Let's explore how we can constructively address those conflicts together. One participant nodded, raising her hand. How do you handle the disappointment when dreams don't match up? The question hung in the air like fog, heavy and opaque. Disappointment. The very concept resonated in the core of Lily's being. It echoed her father's story. The countless ventures that had failed, and the hopes dashed against the rocks of reality. She felt a wave of familiarity wash over her. A reminder that the most painful lessons each carried the seeds of growth. Disappointment is indeed part of the journey, Lily said softly, considering her own experiences as she spoke. But it's how we react that defines those moments. We can choose to reevaluate or pivot. It can lead us to unexpected opportunities. The room shifted again, participants sketching the parameters of their own disappointment, tentatively prodding at its raw edges. Through their shared vulnerability, Lily felt a source of empowerment coalescing. She was not just leading, she was learning alongside them, revealing a capacity to adapt that she hadn't recognized before. Every failure brings insight, she continued, her tone imbued with newfound certainty. What we learn from these moments can reshape our vision. By now, the dialogue had taken on a life of its own. Curious minds enthusiastically debated how to embrace setbacks as redirections, illuminating paths they hadn't yet dared to tread. Each voice added color to the growing picture of their collective consciousness, each realization pulling her deeper into this labyrinth of potential. Lily felt the thrill of uncertainty transform into determination, fueling her with a sense of purpose. She could be the architect of their shared growth, crafting a structure that celebrates not just the end goals, but the entire journey, in all its messy, complicated, and beautiful forms. but doubt still lurked on the periphery. Would the collective wisdom they cultivated stand strong when tested by real-world challenges? Would her emerging vision of leadership withstand scrutiny, or was it too idealistic? The very thought triggered a cold shiver. Testing. Perhaps the greatest test lies ahead, she mused aloud, her palms slightly clammy. If we celebrate failure together, will we have the strength to rebuild every time it strikes? What safeguards should we put in place to ensure we don't get lost in the chaos? With this new layer of tension, Lily felt the ground beneath her shake. The true challenge was revealed. Not merely facilitating dreams, but holding the group together through every disruption. As the responses began to flow again, an eerie chill whispered through her thoughts. Were they ready for the harsh realities lurking behind dreams? And would she find the strength to face the inevitable trials ahead? Her heart hammered in her chest, a perpetual rhythm of urgency that encapsulated the uncharted landscape before them. Little did she know, a defining moment would soon compel her to confront the depths of her emerging leadership, and it was closer than she anticipated. The atmosphere remained charged as Lily's mind raced through the implications of her own question. She realized it was not just her audience that needed to brace for potential upheaval, but she herself must prepare to face the unexpected. The real world, chaotic, unpredictable, was waiting just beyond the safe confines of this room. As discussions spiraled and expanded, a flicker of uncertainty danced in her stomach. Could she guide them through the storm when she was still grappling with her own insecurities? A sudden impulse surged within her to carve her own path, to assert her standpoint against doubt and second-guessing. She took a deep breath, centering herself in the moment, refusing to succumb to the precariousness that loomed. "What if we redefine our relationship with failure?" she proposed, her voice cutting through the animated chatter like a beacon of hope. "Instead of fearing it, let's approach it as a friend, an instructor, teaching us resilience and innovation." Her conviction, once fragile, now radiated with a fierce glow, drawing the others toward her. One participant, a young woman whose enthusiasm had been evident since the beginning, replied with palpable excitement. "So, you're saying we should see failure not as an end, but merely as a signpost guiding us to new paths. It feels liberating to think of it that way." Lily seized on this energy, realizing how pivotal her role had become. She was nurturing a transformative mindset that shook loose the constraints of conventional thinking. Threads of creativity wove among the group, each member contributing unique insights. In that instant, the room felt like a tapestry, vibrant and rich, each voice stitching together visions for possibilities that lay ahead. Yet, beneath the exhilaration lingered an undercurrent of tension. Had they truly wrapped their heads around what it meant to embrace failure? Would this openness hold up when their dreams collided in the real world, veering sharply from the ideals they were constructing here? As she pondered these questions, the clamoring voices dwindled into a hush. Their unsaid fears filled the silence, and Lily faced the gathering audience, bracing herself for the vulnerability that came with questioning their shared resolve. "Let's break into smaller groups," she suggested, "and identify what failure has taught us individually. How can we leverage those lessons to create a collective safety net for this community moving forward? If we know, personally, how each failure has shaped our paths, we can cultivate strategies together for possible future discord." The buzz of agreement swelled, and as they divided up, Lily sat in quiet reflection. This was more than an exercise. It was an investment in trust. She could feel the fissures beneath the surface, the lurking doubts that could easily fracture the confidence they meticulously built. In one group, a participant spoke hesitantly of a business idea that had evaporated before it even started. "It was terrifying. I thought I was a fraud. But now, unpacking it, I see I learned about market dynamics and audience engagement, the real lessons that have transformed my approach." Lily felt a pang of recognition. Mirroring her own experiences, this participant's failure had revealed hidden insights. The truth became a mirror for her. She had also edged towards the brink of despair in her career, yet here stood a testament to resilience. As the discussions deepened, her pulse quickened with excitement and fear. She envisioned the safeguard she yearned to create, a vibrant framework to catch each member when they took risks and faced setbacks. But could she embody that framework effectively? "How can I make room for all these vulnerable moments?" she asked in a hushed tone, the query directed inward. The question echoed back at her, drenched in self-doubt and determination. The hour flew by, and as the participants gathered again, an undeniable sense of unity emerged, a collective recognition that this journey wouldn't be seamless. They understood now that each trial held revelations, and Lily felt herself morphing from a hesitant leader to a fierce advocate for authenticity. Yet, as their discussions concluded and the room began to empty, a troubling thought settled in. What if their newfound insights were tested sooner than they anticipated? Could she face the potential fallout from their explorations and still wield the courage to lead? As she collected her belongings, a sudden commotion stirred outside, drawing her attention. Curious, she moved toward the window, her heart racing with the thrill of the unknown. But before she could comprehend what lay outside, a name echoed in her mind. A name connected to her father's past, a revelation that could haunt her very journey ahead. Could it be possible that their dreams and realities were more intertwined than she had ever known? The world beyond the window expanded with unfamiliar intensity, charging her with a sense of urgency she couldn't yet articulate. The moment of truth hung in the air, and she felt the weight of the question that would reshape her future. The tumult outside clamored for Lily's attention as she peered out the window, the heart of Maplewood alive with the bustle of small-town activity. Yet, the vibrant scene beyond felt like a world apart from her journey inside the room. A whirlwind of mixed emotions, a sense of dread and opportunity, swirled within her. She remembered her father's gentle guidance, the principles he had instilled in her, and she knew she needed to embrace whatever awaited her. After gathering her belongings, she stepped outside, feeling the crisp air bite at her cheeks. The murmurs of the crowd crescendoed, and her pulse quickened as faces familiar from her past emerged. Neighbors who had relied on her father's mechanics, and friends who had once viewed her as an outsider. Their laughter and chatter faded as her father's shop came into view, its humble facade belying the pride and legacy it represented. She made her way toward it, purpose anchoring her steps. Walking through the door, she felt a sense of familiarity wash over her, a nurturing embrace of nostalgia and longing for connection. Suddenly, she was engulfed in warmth. Customers gathered around, voices abuzz, discussing excitement and challenges. But then she spotted a face that stopped her short. Riley, his demeanor markedly shifted, standing at her father's side, exchanging pleasantries. The sight slid through her, an unexpected pang of vulnerability whisking away her fortified confidence. For a fleeting moment, doubt crept back in. Had she made a difference? Had her plea for collaboration and understanding resonated beyond the presentation? Suddenly, the need for acknowledgement loomed larger than life. What if her efforts were not enough? But just as uncertainty tightened its grip, her father's kind eyes found hers, igniting a spark of reassurance. He stood tall, even amid frailty, embodying resilience that had forged her resolve. With him there, the sheer weight of her aspirations gave way to clarity. In her heart, she knew why she had ventured here today, not just for recognition, but to honor the legacy entwined with love and sacrifice. Flushing with courage, she approached her father, who turned, pride blooming on his face. "Lily, you should have seen it. Everyone is buzzing about your presentation." His enthusiasm ignited a warmth within her. They recognized not just a project but a shift, a turn toward something greater. "Dad, I just shared our journey," she replied, glancing around. "I wanted them to see you, and what you lost in the hustle of daily life." Her words hung in the air, laden with sincerity. The beauty lies not only in what is lost, but in what still blooms, he reflected, his gentle wisdom cascading over her in waves. In that moment, she fully understood. Her transformation was only meaningful if it reached others, if it inspired their own journeys. Yet, when she turned back to the crowd, a wave of trepidation washed her once more. They were still engaged in lively discussion around her father's work. She realized she had a fresh opportunity, not merely to connect her designs but to highlight how they could truly revolutionize mechanics in their community. "Can I share something with everyone?" she called out, summoning courage from deep within. The crowd quieted, interest piqued by her unexpected presence. "Today I realized that being a mechanic is about more than fixing cars. It's about building trust, fostering connections, and recognizing the potential for innovation." Her voice resonated, emboldened by her experience. "The design I created isn't a solitary achievement. It connects to all of you, your voices, your stories. Together we can redefine what it means to be a mechanic, and dare I say, a community." The air crackled with energy, ripples of recognition flowing through the crowd. Conversations transformed, shifting from skepticism to excitement. With newfound clarity, they began to share possibilities, envisioning ways to merge her designs and their needs. "I propose," she continued, "that we collaborate, leverage our skills, and explore possibilities. This isn't just my journey, it's ours." The room erupted in applause, a sound she could only dream of moments before. Laughter mingled with tears of joy and empathy, and glimpses of her father's legacy filled the space. However, what stirred within Lily was a deeper unison. Her dreams, shaped by experience, bloomed as a shared vision. Finally, with hearts connected, they forged plans for workshops, community engagement, and mentorships, committing to breathe life into a shared future. Lily understood that this transformation wasn't simply about her life. It was a collective realization where every voice mattered. As Lily stepped back, a wave of accomplishment soothed her. Her father beamed, mirroring the satisfaction that nestled in her chest. In embracing the legacy, she defined her own path, one of shared aspirations, mutual growth, and conscious contributions. Today was not about marking an end, but igniting a foundation that would sustain hope, a new perspective that turned isolation into unity. In honoring her father, she illuminated her very destiny, embracing the spirit of resilience he embodied. The warmth of community flourished, a living tapestry woven together by dreams, connected through the very fabric of love and persistence. Today, she not only discovered her voice, she claimed her legacy. Now is your chance to be part of something extraordinary. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories that will inspire and uplift you. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help more people experience these transformative journeys. And don't forget to comment your reactions and theories about this incredible conclusion. Your voice matters. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see how profound change can reshape lives. Don't wait. Even one more second, be part of this journey of growth and transformation.